Some time ago, a newspaper columnist named Arthur Jones shared an important moment in his early life with his readers. It happened when he was drafted into the Royal Air Force and found himself in a military barracks with 30 other men. On the first night, he had to make a decision. He had always knelt to say his prayers. Should he continue to kneel now that he was in the military service? He squirmed a little and then said to himself, "Why should I change just because people are watching? Am I going to begin my life away from home by letting other people dictate what I should do or not do?" He decided to kneel. By the time he had finished, he became aware that everyone else was aware of him. And when he made the sign of the cross, he was aware that everyone else knew he was Catholic. As it turned out, he was the only Catholic in the barracks. Yet, night after night, he knelt. He said that those 10 minutes on his knees often led to discussions that lasted for hours. On the last day in boot camp, someone said to him, "You are the finest Christian I've ever met." He replied, "Well, I might be the most public Christian you've ever met, but I don't think I'm the finest. Still, I thank you for what you said." That story illustrates one of the points of today's gospel. Commitment to Jesus means taking a stand on certain things, and sometimes that stand sets us in opposition to other people. The message that Jesus brought caused conflict between people who stood for truth and people who resisted it. Conflict between people who accepted good and people who sided with evil. Conflict between people who cherished love and people who spread hatred. So Jesus spoke to the crowd. "Do you think that I have come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division." This division was all the more evident in the early Christian community. And this division exists even today. There is the conflict between good and evil. There is the conflict between people who keep the commandments of the Lord and people who disregard them. There is the conflict between people who respect the rights of others and the people who ignore them. There is conflict between the people who keep the precepts of the church and the people who vehemently oppose them. If no one is ever offended by the quality of our commitment to Christ, that commitment may not be authentic. And if our individual and communal living of the good news casts no fire and causes no division, then perhaps we are practicing an ineffective Christianity. As Jesus walked the road to Jerusalem, the disciples had to decide whether to go with him or not. To be with or against Jesus is a decision which has the effect of judgment and division. Even though Christ did come to establish peace between God and man, that peace causes a division between those who accept it and those who reject it. In this way, he becomes a sign of contradiction. As Simeon, who took the baby Jesus in his arms in the temple and foretold, "This child will be cause of rise and fall of many," meaning he will bring division. Christianity tore families in two because a follower of Christ had to decide which he loved better, his friends and relatives or Christ. In Christianity, the loyalty to Christ has to take precedence over the dearest loyalties of this earth. Belief in Jesus and commitment to him cause arguments to erupt between believers and non-believers in the same family or community, resulting in a division of families and conflict in society. Standing up for what is right, working for justice and truth are higher aims, and working for those aims will sometimes cause division. Hence, Christians today may cause division and rouse opposition because they share, through their baptism, the prophetic charism of speaking God's word, no matter how unpopular, and of giving a voice to those who have no one to speak for them. Let us remember that Jesus' sense of justice brought him into conflict with those who exploited the weak and the poor. His integrity invited confrontation with the dishonest and hypocritical leaders. And his love for the poor, for sinners, and for the outcast alienated him from the narrow-minded and self-righteous. C.S. Lewis once said that the gospel was concerned to create new people, not just nice people. There was this amateur naturalist who saw a cocoon. This naturalist saw a butterfly struggling to get out of that cocoon. The butterfly was struggling to get out of the cocoon and was just about ready to break out of that cocoon when the amateur naturalist, who was closely watching as the miracle unfolded. Then the naturalist did a very imprudent thing. He took out his pocket knife and he slit the cocoon so the butterfly did not have to struggle. The butterfly came out but could not fly around because it had no perfect wings. It develops its wings from the substance that is generated by and comes from the body while struggling to get out of the cocoon. So it is with Christianity. Christianity always involves struggle, whereby a person becomes a strong disciple. It is only through struggles that a person becomes strong spiritually or strong emotionally. That is why Jesus said, "If anyone likes to follow me, take up his cross and follow me." Every prophet and righteous man was resisted by the forces of evil because their mission was not to compromise, but to challenge and change. Their words came like a double-edged sword to the forces of evil. This is the exact mission of the church and of every Christian. We are called not for a life of compromise, but for a life of challenge. And we have a rich tradition in this regard. Our martyrs and saints upheld this mission and stood for truth and justice. Today, following this tradition, we have to stand for justice, keeping in mind that resistance and challenge will be part of our life. Every day, we are called to make choices, decisions as to which way we will go that day. Sometimes those decisions are costly in terms of money or family or friendships. If our destination is important to us, we make the correct choice. Not every time, perhaps, but often enough. More than ever, we need charismatic and fearless Christians to take up this challenge, to do as much as we can in our homes, in our workplace, and in our society. Let us ask God to give us strength and courage to resist our inner conflict and stand by justice regardless of its consequences. May God give us wisdom and courage to make those choices in the days ahead.